Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another Saturday Smackdown, absolutely. Today, Aizamk versus Soldier, and this was a particularly interesting series, actually. Aizamk seems to have no shortage of new ideas when it comes to this game. Certainly a player who is traditionally very well known for doing strange things, very odd, very interesting things that definitely end up well outside the realms of standard play. And it looks like now that the ESOC patch meta is fully emerging, Ace has some brand new things that now seem to work against the popular builds out there and the things that people normally do. Games 2, 3, and 4, they were very much the case. Do check them out, but as always, you can skip to any game or matchup played in the series using the timestamps in the description below, though do be careful when looking at those, as seeing the number of games in a series can ruin the outcome of it if you plan to watch them all in order. So there is that. But just a quick note, for the last couple of weeks, depending on where you live in the world, Smackdown has been starting an hour early. That is due to American daylight saving time changes that Zuta is in, and he of course hosts the Twitch stream. But by the time the next Saturday Smackdown starts, all of Europe and lots of other places in the world will have changed their time zones as well. So we'll be returning to the normal start time if you keep missing it for that reason. But game number 4, though, that was my favourite. If perhaps you only have time for one match, that is the one to watch. But without further ado, enjoy the series.
Hey guys, what's up? Zuta here with another Saturday Smackdown, joined by Interjection as always. Hey, and we're
Soldier Boy, act cranky. Whoa!
Yep, we got the Soldier Boy and A's going to be playing today. I do want to mention a bunch of people messaged me before this game asking whether or not they could play, and the answer is yes, you can play. I would just prefer to have a little bit of more time notice. For example, Soldier messaged me, I think on Wednesday of this week, saying that he wanted to play, and I immediately slotted him in, right? That's great for me. It gives me 4 days advance to know that I have one of my players. And so if you want to play and you know in advance that you want to play, that you're going to be free, just send me a message on esoccommunity.net and I will be more than happy to schedule to play. If you have someone that you want to play against and you have an opponent and you have a matchup already picked up, that would be even better. I would love to know in advance who's going to be playing.
Extra points if you can get the Amazonia and Caribbean in, and
yes.
Honshu.
So I see lots of people complaining about the players, but the reality of the matter is I don't have a ton of time to schedule matches for myself, and so I tend to go with people who have messaged me in advance or are on my friends list and are reliable people, and so that's why Ace is playing today. For Kaiser and Mongo, some of the other people who messaged me today, I feel your pain. I know you want to play, and if you want to play and you know you're going to be able to play in advance, just send me a message, and I'd be absolutely happy, thrilled to have you play. So that's all I'm going to say about that. And I think with that, I think we're ready to get started. First thing I have to do is I have to change Civ. I don't know why I'm on my Dutch Civ.
Yeah, what are you playing at, Zuta? That's not right.
That's definitely not right.
Yeah, I'd like to see some people practice with each other on maps like Caribbean, and then like have what would be considered a fairly competitive game with semi-optimal build orders on some like crazy maps. Could be fun.
That would be really fun to watch, honestly.
I think it might be fun, like just as a one-off, or maybe even two times. Any more than that, and it could be tedious. I can see those games going on like quite a long time, but I can see that being fun the first few times we do it. But ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another best of 7 Saturday Smackdown with me and Zuta. The time zone transition episode 2, I suppose, where we start an hour later or early, I don't know. But that will fix as clocks are changing here. But this is an interesting matchup, Zuta. Today, I was going through a backup folder on where I store my backups, right? And I see this match called, well, it was actually between H2O and Boning, but within this folder, I also found a matchup, a big series between Aizamk and Soldier for the Spring Championships back in 2015. And I released one of the videos in that folder on my YouTube channel today. So it's very interesting that suddenly Aizamk and Soldier are sort of rematching. And I quite like that. It sort of goes well with the channel and what I put out today. I found that very interesting for some reason. It's kind of like a rematch. It's now Spring Championships coming up again. Sounds very exciting to me.
What was the matchup that they were playing?
They played a best of 5 or whatever it was for as part of their series.
What
I can't
round
remember
was
this.
it?
Round of 16, I believe. It's on Venny's channel, actually. There's a link to that in the description of the video that I mentioned, and probably this one as well, if you're watching this as a video, of course. But yeah, this is the rematch, effectively. So, well, sort of like that. But Aizamk and Soldier, both very, very good players. And Aizamk, characterized by his funky strategies that we all know and love, that he likes to come up with things on the fly and do things differently. Starting with a trading post, as the British. So, right off the bat, we have something funky and interesting there. He's going to pick himself up 110 wood as well. He's going to be very happy about that, because, Zuta, I have a sneaking suspicion that this guy is going to be sending that card that makes manas cheaper.
I'm actually surprised. So take a look at his base though as well. Like he's actually got just a single mana and the trading post. He's not. He may send Virginia Company, but he's not doing his like 8 or 9 mana super slow age up Virginia Company build that we've sometimes become accustomed to seeing playing on maps like this, and especially against the Civ like Portuguese.
Yeah, he hasn't seemed to be doing that. He did still get the trading post, though, so we'll see what he ends up doing overall. I'm sure he wants to sneak an extra shipment in the Discovery Age, and I'm sure that'll be arriving any moment now. But no, 3 settlers going to be coming out for Aizamk. We have something a bit more normal, plus a trading post.
We have standard play, I repeat, we have standard play.
Wow. Houston, we have a problem.
Exactly.
Yeah, but trading posts can be quite good still, even with British. Perhaps he has some sort of Fortress Age timing, you know, that we've talked before about those Black Watch that you get from the Church is British, and you can time that with the Falconets and things like that. We'll see if that's in his deck real quick. It is. We do have the Glorious Revolution in Aizamk's deck, so that's still on the cards with this early trading post, and that kind of tells me that that is perhaps something on his mind. Let's turn the Control-Shift-F on. I forgot to do that at the start of the game. But, of course, he is up against Soldier, a fairly strong player that's been around for a very long time as well. And here he is in the color red, playing as indeed the Portuguese. Starting with 300 wood, Zuta. He's not going to be saving his shipments. He's going to be sending the 300 wood, grabbing a trading post with that by the looks of it.
Yeah, and it's kind of curious, right? Because, I mean, we've seen pretty often in the meta Portuguese players tending to save that shipment and then instead sending something like 700 wood a little bit later on. But that's not going to be the case here. He's just going to immediately send 300 wood, be picking up that trading post nice and early on, and we'll see what he ends up doing as a result of that. Maybe he's got some sort of aggressive FF.
Is he going to die? He's on 14 life!
Nope.
No, I didn't think he would, but it was sorry, I had to mention it.
Yeah.
90 wood though, pretty happy about that, I'm sure.
Yeah, he like kind of botched that, right? He aggroed both of the tigers, and then he like did the crack shot while both of the tigers were mauling him, and ended up taking a lot more damage than I think he probably needed to. But yeah, I mean that extra 90
I think he has intentions of building a trading post. So he does. He's going to build it there, but Aizamk is very nearby, and he's not up to the Colonial Age yet. He does not get that extra 100 HP boost. If Aizamk happens to see this, he can run in there and you know, throw a pop shot at him, and then there's no way that trading post will go up on time. It will certainly go up a lot later, because of course the Soldier will need to bring a unit over there to revive it. Is it going to go up in time? I don't think Aizamk's going to see it.
They must be just out of line of sight of each other, because that's very, very close to being in vision of each other. Yeah. So I think the interaction there was Soldier could see Duber with his Explorer, because the Explorer has more line of sight, right? But Duber couldn't see the Explorer.
Useless Duber.
Aze, of course, had his eyes on that very nice 175 coin treasure, which is, you know, just as big as a win, honestly, as maybe stopping the trading post. That's a huge amount of coins.
It makes sense why he'd be sort of standing around there protecting it, making sure that, you know, nothing was coming near. I didn't want to move too far, and just didn't happen to be in the line of sight. I'm sure he would have gone for the opponent's Explorer had he seen that, but, you know, didn't see that there. But Virginia Company does arrive for the British player, and I believe if I switch on over to text completed, of course, both players are well into the Colonial Age. Their 500 food is, I believe, the age up bonus for the British player, whereas, of course, Portugal going to be going for the 400 wood. 700 wood has just arrived as his first Colonial Age shipment, and with that, I'm sure we'll see him slam down a few things. Houses, military building, there's a stable, there's a house, perhaps he'll get some market upgrades, and of course, maybe even the stagecoach. He's got 2 of these, though, considering his opponent has the third trading post, perhaps not. We'll see what he does with that wood, but certainly that is his shipment here. But Aizamk, as I kind of mentioned and alluded to earlier, 700 coin has arrived for him, and this feels like he's intending, with that 500 food he aged up with, to go up for the glorious Revolution build.
I think you're absolutely right. I think that's definitely what he's going to do. We can see his resources back down to nil. He has spent all of those resources. He's got his 700 coin already collected and has spent it on his Egypt. I believe we'll just see one more villager pop out here, and then he will start that transition and look for the next card. I think to be the unique church card, and we'll see whether or not he gets those Highlanders and Felix. Does he have? He doesn't have any sort of forward base location, I guess.
No. He's got a lot of hussars though, doing a good job here. Look at that, cleans up all of these hussars from Soldier, and Minutemen are cool. Does force them out. I'm sure once all these cav are down, he's gonna run away from the Minutemen and won't want to fight them.
Oh wow, we completely missed this. He's not aging at all, is he? He's like just stable rushing. I completely missed that. Like I didn't realize he had that many hussars.
You thought he clicked up, and that makes sense, right? He'd actually spent the resources on hussars. Yeah, I thought, he only had 5, but he's gone for significantly more. 600, no, that's Soldier. 600 coin does follow from Soldier. Okay, so he's going to start with the hussars. So not what he's doing. He's not going up to the next stage for the Glorious Revolution. We got ahead of ourselves.
We were both so excited to be seeing the Highlander Felt combo that neither one of us even saw this stable. He must have just gotten down the stable very, very early and used his resources to just get out like 2 batches of 5 cav early and then just push really aggressively. But Soldier was able to shut that down with Minutemen and Hussar of his own, and actually Portuguese in a very good position, I would argue, right now.
Yeah, Portugal got not the villager lead yet, but...
Yep. But they often aren't going to against Brits, right? Yeah, he's killed a lot of British units. He's slowed down Aze. If you take a look at Aze's house population, he's only at 80 manor population, going on 8 minutes. It's pretty low. Now there is the 700 wood, 600 wood, 5 villager interaction that's going to come.
I'm sure that this it is quite low, this house count, as you mentioned, but he does have the Virginia Company sent, and 600 wood therefore is going to represent several more manors than it ordinarily would. So I'm sure we'll see that rectified by the 10-minute mark. He should be up to where he wants to be. He did get that trading post in the early game, so it's not going to ruin his the fact that he sent this extra shipment, his shipment progression a little bit too much. There's a fight going on down here. Pikeman going to join the fight and force the remaining cav away here. These 5 cav probably not want to get involved. They're going to head straight past the... it looks like they're going to head towards those villages next to the, of course, racks. Let's take a look at units in queue, see if there's anything there. Just hussars that might pop out of the stable if he is lucky and catch these cav.
Doesn't look like quite. Soldier, a little bit of indecision there. He sees lots of villagers, his eyes light up, and he's not quite sure which way to go. Looks like he is going to end up picking off 1 villager. Maybe he'll get that second one as it flees towards the racks, but nice little pickup there for him. And as you mentioned, cav coming out of the stable.
There's some pikemen as well. They were not on the units in queue. They just popped out of nowhere, or unless I missed them or something like that. But pikemen definitely are going to swing this fight, and we can see Soldier trying to get away, trying to pull off 1 cav back. But Ace going to try and keep going, try and snare this other one. The 2 do get away there. And is only by the looks of it going to get that 1 cav. Looks like he's got coming across his path there. Does manage to snare the next one. The other cav, I'm sure, will be able to catch up. Going to keep these slowing down, but now we see more cav going to join the fight. Plus 6 musketeer shipment here. Now Aze is the one who's going to have to try and get back out. Going to try and, by the looks of it, regroup with these pikemen here. Lure those cavalry perhaps towards that, and then get the pikemen involved. And that'll swing the fight heavily. And then we'll see Soldier running away, I imagine.
Yeah, pretty back and forth. Another thing I noticed here during all of this interaction is Ace actually has a second stable. I saw Cav coming sprinting from that odd angle, and I was wondering what was going on. It turns out he's actually got a second stable up there, and as a result, it has the ability to train a ton of Cav should he need to. Yep. But this is kind of a scary time for him. Soldier's got a pretty intimidating-looking army here.
He does.
And a lot of military units. Big fight going to happen.
Yeah, these muskets, they're going to trump the pikemen for sure. Those pikemen aren't going to be nearly as good now. They're going to just get shot down, and they're not going to be able to do that ×5 versus the cavalry. And then, really, it's just going to be more units versus what Blue has remaining. He's only got, he's got significantly fewer muskets. That's the story being told right here. And now it looks like, combined with the Minutemen and these things, and easily be able to kill the pikemen, he now has control of this sort of really large hunting location. There's 3 hunts and a mine here, plus his racks, more importantly, and his stable as well. So 2 military buildings here. that Aizamk is going to lose should he not be able to find military units very quickly, or some sort of counter push, or some sort of distraction. He's going to lose this location.
Yeah, he almost surely is. And if you take a look at what he's got going for him,
Musks run! No, they're going into hand combat. Oh, nicely done. Look at that, pulling the cav away. And then A's perhaps lost about one volley there as he was switching back to range mode, since they were all in melee, and that gave the red muskets a bit of extra time to do some damage, and of course he took less on the hussars. The soldier, even though he overwhelmingly outnumbered those couple of muskets, still trying to pick up as much of an advantage as he can. Nicely done from Soldier, good unit control.
Yeah, and this is a really tough situation for Azals, and if you look at what he has explored on his side of the map, doesn't have a ton of resources left, and needs to be very careful.
He did, but they've all been captured.
Yeah, it's a very tricky situation. We can see Minutemen coming back in from home. Soldier with his 8 crossbow coming across the map to aid into this fight as well. The muskets still doing a pretty good job here for A's of working their way through the front lines and being able to eliminate most of the Hussar and a bunch of the muskets. Crossbows coming in from kind of an awkward angle, get caught out a little bit by the Hussar. Yeah, it's actually still a pretty tricky fight. I quickly turned off the Fog of War to see what kind of hunt situation A's had working for him, and he actually has a hunt back here that he needs to find out about, and similarly he has a hunt back here that he needs to find out about. He's actually got a pretty decent number of hunts available to him. If he just scouts them out, or maybe makes an educated guess that they're there, still does have the ability to get those, but he definitely needs those resources, because as it stands in his base right now, just from him looking at his side of the map, his map looks very thin of resources at this point in time.
Yeah, it does when you don't have the line of sight. Well, when you have it on there. Cav going to try and fight these red ones, but not too good. He's luring them away from that stable. I think that's what he's trying to do there with his, but was it worth it? He lost, I think, 2 cav, and I'm not sure how many of the red ones he tried to kill. Economic theory now lands in for Soldier as well, and this is where he can afford to slow down and get these sort of longer-term late-game upgrades, right? British are not able to do that just yet. He's going to be, if he wants to send his musket cards and things like that, they're not going to be as immediate as perhaps resource shipments, but then he doesn't have any resource shipments left.
Yeah, it's very true. This is looking more and more grim by the moment here for A's. Looks like he did find one hunt over here on the left side of his base, but still, if you take a look at the military unit population, quite in favor of a Soldier. He's catching this raid back home with a few muskets, making sure he shuts that down, and all the while continuing to be proactive.
Oh dear. Are they going to be seen? I'm sure they are. Yeah. The question is, will A's be able to pull him away? Yeah, he does, but it's a little bit too late. Does lose one, and perhaps a second now on the volley. Yeah, these could be useful for taking out random houses and just being useful on the map. But Soldier does manage to clean that up. Yes, A's is still in the lead economically. It's a very small amount, and as you mentioned, Soldier is catching up. Soldier has 2 town centers. Soldier's villages cost less food. Soldier has access to more hunting locations on the map. Soldier has a larger military unit population, but for the time being, Aizamk is ahead, and he needs to make something happen soon. I know that's a recurring and common thing we say, but what is that thing that he needs to do, Zua?
I think he needs to get some sort of a raid in, right? He realistically, when you're behind...
Look at this. Outnumbering the muskets in that area quite substantially, whilst Soldier's army is away. Gonna do quite good here, but will the rest of Soldier's army catch up in time? I don't think they will.
I don't think they will. That's actually a really good trade. Like, that's a huge
and look, some villages nearby being forced away.
Yeah, and that's what I was going to say. This is like another thing that, although this raid is getting caught back here, look at what it's forcing the army for Soldier to do. Look at how all of his military units are flocking back towards his base to be able to deal with that. And while that's occurring, A's gets out on the map, right? He starts to establish locations like this. And he starts to get back out over here a little bit. Had he scouted out this hunt, he would have the ability to start going over there. If you take a look at where Soldier is standing his army, it's all on the right side of the ice shelf, which is exactly what A's wants, right? It gives him a little bit of time to get out on the map, get his army back under control, reestablish some infrastructure, and get his army grouped up. And obviously, the longer this game goes, right, and the more muskets get on the field, the more musket upgrades get on the field, A's is going to be in a better and better and better situation. Yeah. And that's definitely, I think it's going to start to show itself.
He does have musketeer hit points there. These are 172 hit point muskets, so they are quite a bit better. There is a lot of cav there. Yes, cav aren't particularly strong against it. Well, musketeers do counter them, but, you know, the more stuff principle coming in strong, I think. Aizamk's units, not all of them, 10 musketeers joining the fray there. Yeah, these cav...
Yeah, these cav are actually tanking so much damage, while the Portuguese musketeers getting off a lot of volleys from the backside. And, of course, Soldier going to be able to continue to leverage these cav into more raids, sending them back across the map. And it's going to force a bunch of A's reinforcements not to be where they need to be, which is fighting out on this side of the map, trying to pressure Soldier's economy. And as a result, looks like both sides going back. Once again, this game is actually very, very close. It's actually really, like, so close. Really hard to call right now who's actually in the lead.
Yeah, I think so as well. Look here, so you've got more muskets joining the fight. These are, you know, much stronger than the ordinary ones that Red has there, but, you know, Red does have some crossbows mixed in, which, providing they don't get killed, are, you know, stronger. They're going to do more damage to these, but I think A's, yeah, you know, some of them, well, he's not focusing them specifically, but should be able to kill them off. They're, you know, they're not out of range. They are being shot. His Soldier going to get those back now and try and sort of kite back with them and make the use of the most of their range and extra damage. But I think A's coming out on top of that fight as well. Meanwhile, there's a little bit of a raid that Soldier is forcing with his cavalry, but Ace does shut that down with a batch of muskets and cav by the looks of it. The Explorer gonna snare the cavalry. Look at that, and can he get the other cat? Yes, he does manage to get that in the fight, and now Red gonna have to take this fight here, and the muskets in the back, and I mean that Aizamk gets a really nice trade there, and the unit population once this is concluded will make it more in favor of the blue player. Whose economy is, you know, managed to maintain that sort of 10-ish villager lead over his opponent this whole time, and because of that, now with his stronger muskets, is perhaps going to be going into going well into the future.
Yeah, and that's and the important thing as well is that he's back out on the map, right? He's not confined to his base. If we consider the situation he was in, like, even 5 minutes ago, right, where he was hunting on this hunt and things were actually looking pretty grim. He didn't have any hunt, to the point he's at now where he's just expanded out all over the map. He's in all of these different locations and is safe in doing so because he does have the military advantage once again. It seems a little bit questionable where Soldier is going to be able to gather here moving forward, especially when Ace is infringing on the resources on his side of the map so heavily.
That tower. That is funny.
Oh, look at the card Ace just sent. Florence Nightingale. How often do you see that?
What on earth does that... Well, like, I know what it does. It heals, right? But that is not... They're not particularly good card. Why is that being sent?
Makes your manners heal. I don't know.
All manners slowly heal nearby units. But, like, his manners are very spread out, aren't they?
Yeah. Well,
surely that can't be worth it. But here we do have a very large fight. Cavalry in a nice position on top of those crossbowmen there, and the musket's going to come up, and they're going to be able to do some good damage. There's lots of village, I think, or Soldier's going to have to use these if he wants... I don't know, that might not even be good either. The crossbowmen are going to get torn apart by these cavalry, and Longbow is on both sides here, adding nice damage from huge amounts of range. And I think this is an overwhelming victory in this location for A's, and that means he's going to take control of these hunts, and I don't think Soldier has any... Yeah, the Soldier's going to resign right there, and Aizamk going to take game number 1.
Yep. Just a good position there in that last flank. And I think really what it came down to is Ace's ability to get back in the game with the raids. Like, he got over on Soldier's side of the map, and the second that Soldier lost the advantage, the tempo over on Ace's side of the map, it was just kind of a downward spiral. Ace got back out on the map and was able to gather resources, and Soldier just continued to kind of be confined. And had Soldier been able to continue to stop that, I think Ace would have just starved out, would have had the classic British problem of I don't have enough hunt and I can't make units as a result. But not the case. Ace doing a good job of getting his Hussar out on the map, forcing Soldier back into a defensive location, and despite kind of the rocky start, eventually when Break gets going for long enough in Age 2, they have some of those very strong military unit upgrades and musket HP, cav HP really shining through.
Yeah, I was just quickly hosting you on the various channels that I'm able to do that on, so I wasn't looking at the screen, but take a quick look at the post-game. The resource count was very even this whole game, actually. Ace slightly ahead, and I guess that's as a sort of a facet of having extra villages. Soldier was never able to catch up and get ahead. He did sort of close the gap towards the end of the game, though.
Yeah, and I mean that's a testament to how, I guess, even the early game was, right? Because traditionally Brits are considerably far ahead of you in terms of overall resources gathered, but they spend a lot of those resources getting to that point, right? In making manors and making villagers and investing in economic cards, stuff like that.
Yeah.
And if it gets to some sort of switching point where all of a sudden their economy surpasses what they've invested, then they just kind of roll you over. But and I think that's realistically the point that A's hit at the end of the game. But it was very, very close for a very large portion of the game.
Absolutely. But that is game number 1. We'll be right back with game number 2.
Because if you think about like the old WCG games, right? Like there wasn't like good coverage at that time for a lot of those games, right? Like in 2008, none of WCG 2008 was covered in like with any sort of cast. And a lot of people know that H2O beat Grunt, right? A lot of people know that, and a lot of people are even more familiar with like some of the series like that the SAG game, the last game between Grunt and H2O on SAG, is one of my favorite games of all time. It's a Japan mirror, and people who don't like Japan mirrors are going to say, LOL, you're crazy, but it's one of the better Japan mirrors. It's probably the most high-level Japan mirror of all time. I mean, Grunt versus H2O.
If you have those recordings, and you could even do that, or anyone could, but I don't know where those recordings are. Actually, I know H2O does have the 2008
That's
ones.
the thing. I know H2O has basically every game from 2008 saved in a folder. And so there's lots of games.
It's the 2007 games that went missing.
Yeah, that's right. The 2008 games, though, like a lot of people don't know that the Demon won 3rd place and like how good of a player he was back in that time period, right? And so like just watching like the 3rd place games of him and casting those, like that could be like a very interesting series as well.
Is that something you want to do then, Zuta?
Yeah, I kind of do.
Let me finish my mouthful of pizza. For those of you that don't know, I thought I had a whole extra hour to eat a pizza. Turns out the States wants to do everything first, and they changed their time zones. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to game number 2 in this best of 7 series, where we do pit good players or great players. Just we like to do a best of 7 every week, and that's what this is. Saturday Smackdown, Aizamk versus Soldier, and interestingly enough, this continues the theme of what I mentioned at the very start of the first video, or the first game rather, which is that I had this folder on my PC where I found a game between A's and Soldier from a very long time, well, from exactly a year ago now for the Spring Championships. But, the point is, H2O versus Boning was the video I put up today, and this was exactly the matchup that was played. We had H2O playing as Russia. Here, Aizamk playing Russia in the color blue, up against his opponent, IamSoldier, playing as the Aztecs, which would have been Boning. No, yeah, something like that. Yeah, it would have been Boning. So this sort of follows on in some sort of strange way.
Yeah, it's interesting. And just speaking of matchups very quickly, this is a matchup that I've always found incredibly difficult for Russia. Yeah. It's so hard to beat basically pure coyote with a 10 mace shipment as Russia. You need to... I don't even know it. It's just really difficult. You almost need to play like defensively and try and just control your hunts, because Aztec can get up so fast and you can have coyotes raiding you so early. Yep. Oftentimes what Russia will rely on, right, is their ability to apply early pressure and just like kind of control the map. But because Aztec has a fast age to age 2, they pretty much mitigate that completely by just being able to age up and get their shooting war hut in a better place than you're shooting blockhouse and getting it up earlier and getting out more units. And if you try and play super aggressively against them, they just counter your aggression with aggression of their own and just shut it down.
They do. Aizamk does come across a village treasure though, pretty nice. I'm sure he'll be grabbing that when he sees it. Yeah, here we go, gonna kill those 10 10 coyotes. It'll be nice to see how he kites these ones. You can, in theory, do this treasure and many others without taking any damage. Yeah, nicely done so far. But it's interesting that you mention, obviously we know that Aztec really does like to make the coyote units there. H2O has spoken about that at length in my H2O Explains that I do with him. And as we know, Russia, they have a tendency to not deal with to deal with cavalry so well, and coyote runners especially, since they don't take as much damage from, well, anti-cavalry. They don't take as much damage from, they don't have the same multipliers. So this is going to be, I think, that is especially going to make it tough for Russia. I've always felt that Aztec is just a better version of Russia as well, where it has like a blockhouse-style barracks building, and yeah.
Yeah, and they have a more immediately impactful economy as well, right? Because they can send stuff like 5 villagers through Warrior Priest, which can
advanced trading post. That is an interesting show.
Yeah, I actually saw 2 interesting things tech-wise that I wanted to mention here. Right. Both ATP and the fact that Soldier actually researched Founder. So few people researched Founder.
I did see and research it. I don't know. I didn't like. I thought nothing of it whilst I was talking.
It doubles, I believe it doubles the XP bonus that the War Chief gives you. So or maybe it's not double, but it increases that XP bonus that the War Chief gives you when you're standing next to stuff. So namely, he can use it to run around with this little crew that he's got here and use those things to last hit. I miss Cav. And
Cav and his lads.
And his outlaw.
His band of merry men.
Exactly. And you can run around with those guys and just pick up all kinds of XP just using them to last hit. Let's see how much XP he gets here off of some of these.
So characters. The ordinary kill XP on this guy is 10, and he grabs himself. Oh, is he gonna save that? Yeah, 30 XP.
Yeah,
whoa.
So it's 50% more, right?
Yeah. Or is it 100% more? You get you get 10, which is 100% more. Plus you already get the bonus from the ordinary guy.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. So the normal would be for it to go from 10 to 20.
Oh yeah, you've got the same.
And then it goes from 20 to 30, so you get an extra 100%.
Yeah, we were thinking of the same numbers, we just expressed it differently.
Yep.
I was thinking of the base of an ordinary explorer, and you were thinking the base of the Aztec explorer, which is already double. Right. Yep. But ATP followed by improved buildings. What is this?
What do we got here? There was someone mentioning in chat, Mr. Bramboy, I believe it was. I'm going to call it out, saying A's isn't fun to watch anymore because he, we're all used to his non-standard standard play, right? He does things like 10-10ing with Portugal.
They have 5,000 hit points.
Yeah, but let's. I would love for anyone to dig up a replay where they saw Russia sending ATP and improved buildings as their first 2 times, whilst doing I think what's a 20 age up. Is that right?
Yeah, I think that
just
is
did a 2020. We've heard about 10-10, but how often have you seen a 2020?
A 2020. Well, we'll see one for an entire year in about 4 years, but that is 2020 into. Maybe when he loses, hindsight will be 2020.
Maybe. But he's going to be able to pick up the whole TP line.
I'd love to see him win this. This is hilarious. Yes, he's going to pick up the whole TP line. And these are almost unkillable, I might say. 4,750 hit points with a 25 ranged attack of 8.
Look at the town center.
Sorry, an 8 attack.
9,100 hit points on that town center.
Zuta, it's over 9,000.
Yeah, it is. It literally is over 9,000. It's ridiculous. And it's actually an interesting conundrum that Soldier has to deal with, right? There is a full TP line, but sieging each one of these down is basically like sieging down a TC. They don't go down quickly at all. I saw several people suggesting one of the ways that they'd like to see TPs nerfed in the current meta is instead of increasing their cost, just make them easier to siege down, make them reduce their hit points so that they were easier to contest. And this is we're going to see the implications of kind of what the anti-change to that is here, right? Where they take an incredibly long time to siege down, and what kind of difficulties that may present itself. Worth noting, A's did just age up at 6 minutes and 11 seconds with Russia, with that classic 2020 age up.
Instant classic, Azu.
That is an instant classic.
Although that's a phrase you like to use. Instant classic.
Yeah. Whenever something really tickles my fancy, it's.
I love like the irony of it as well, because it like that's not, you can't have an instant classic. That's not how it is. Like, Soldier's gonna try anyway. Look at these Puma Spearmen. Normally these guys would tear a TP down pretty quick, but I reckon here, like, you know, that guy's gonna die, and then like, I don't know. Well, he's certainly not going to be able to take out the whole line. And considering this single trading post costs, what is it, like 120 wood? Like, he's just made almost all of that back off killing that Puma there. And I'm sure he's going to kill almost another one. Now these 5 Cossacks are joining the fray.
Yeah. Soldier does have 5 coyotes here, though, which are going to help him.
He's go. He does get away.
Ridiculous damage as well.
Yeah, he's going to kill a second Puma. Look at that. Second one goes down. This TP's almost paid for itself. And think of all of the time it's bought him as well. And it's a stagecoach upgraded line here. This is, like... Yeah, it went down, but
he's gonna get another one maybe. Oh no, he switched the aggro onto a different one. Yeah, he's gonna save this TP. It's not gonna go down. Look at, he's got reinforcements here.
And he's gonna repair that for, what is it, like 60 wood.
Yeah,
and he managed to kill, you know, 2 coyotes out of it. That's just disgusting. That is disgusting.
Yeah.
Like, here we go. Look, I love how this is about to go past, and he's about to grab himself some extra resources. Clunk, clunk. There you go. What have you flared over here? 700 wood has just arrived.
The BM wood, sending 700 wood and then not collecting it. It's the ultimate BM 700 wood.
Oh wow! But what is Soldier up to here? By the looks of it, he's stacking up Puma Spearmen. I think he has it in his mind that he needs to start tearing down this route, and one of the most efficient siege damage units in the game is the way he's going to do that here. Going to start circle sieging this. He's most likely going to get it due to the sheer number. I mean, that many Puma are going to bring down anything. But he managed to defend the last one with just a few Strelets, and this has definitely paid for itself. But yes, he's a lot of siege potential. Soldier certainly does. But Puma Spearmen aren't that useful against really very much, other than buildings and I suppose cavalry. And Ace, once all these resources start coming in, which they're probably doing about now, going to be able to spam out lots of units. Yeah, 700 coins, just collected that up. Can see him adding in his second blockhouse and a stable. This is where Aizamk is getting ready to really start spewing units out of his bum.
Yep. It is worth mentioning, we've spent a lot of time talking about the strange things Russia is doing. It's worth mentioning the completely normal things Aztec is doing as well. Back in his base, 700 wood, 5 vil, 3 warrior priests, and he switched over to the warrior priest stance now for a total of 7 warrior priests, which actually leaves him with a very, very strong economy in itself. So, despite the fact that, yes, A's in Russia is doing some very non-standard strange stuff, Aztec, with their fairly normal agenda, is doing its thing as well. So A's did get aged up. Looks like that's what that 700 wood
one of
doing.
which has been queued. Yeah, and here, this is where IamSoldier is panic pushing, I think we like to call this. He sees his opponent get up to the next stage. It's suddenly time to rush in there and do some damage. Not very many units does Ace have, just a couple Strelets and Muskets, his Explorer mixed in there, and 3 cavalry. But Russia do have some, well, they do have the 2 cannons, and they do have a number of other shipments that are pretty okay. And I think he's going to be able to hold this. I think he's going to get those units out from the town center, from the shipments, that is, train a few more, get some of the upgrades, and push back out across the map. I think Russia is in a very good spot right now.
Yeah, we do also have to remember, he has improved buildings, so these blockhouses, the town centers, are, it's not like they're going to just tip over to these Puma Spearmen, right? We saw how much difficulty he had in pulling down the TPs.
Are we going to see a fight right here?
Looks like a day.
A few pop shots. Oh, he's going to turn around and go for it. There's not very many these Puma, therefore, I don't think they're going to be particularly strong in this fight. I think the more numbers principle does favour the red player here. But all of these units are pretty good against what Blue's units, that is, are pretty good against what red has. So this trade won't be terrible for him by any means at all.
Yeah, Musketeer upgrade came just at the right time as well, which is certainly going to help him. But at the same time, we do have to remember Soldier has a ton of war priests. In fact, he's up to 10 back in his base. And as a result of that, switching over to the War Dance, plus having that Founder upgrade and the Melee War Chief tanking so much damage, lots of very deceptive things. Plus, I mean, let's let's be honest, it's not like veteran cavalry archers are the most terrifying unit in the game if you're an Aztec player.
Yeah. When you said musket, I think you meant Coyote combat, but
oh,
yeah.
Did I? Yeah.
It doesn't matter.
Yep.
I thought you were saying something that I wasn't. I was like, what? Russia sent his muskets?
Oh no, I meant he got the veterancy upgrade for his muskets.
Oh, okay. Sorry, I completely was not even tuned in right there to that.
Yeah, but I had completely missed the fact that he had sent Coyote combat as well. So
collectively, we've worked it out.
Yes,
so
we've identified both the important upgrades that have been sent.
A big mass of veteran Tartar, well, not Tartar yet, but cavalry archers are coming out here, stacking these up. This is ESOC patch, so these are, I believe, improved, right?
Are they?
I'm not even sure if they did or not change them. It sounds like something they might do or would have done.
Yeah. Either way, though, this is still the point in the game where all of a sudden Aztec has got a very scary economy. Look back on his war pit, right? He's got 10 warrior priests. He's got a very scary army. He's got Coyote combat sent. And, now he's going to have to navigate his way around this 2 Falconet shipment, which is certainly going to be scary, but he's got a very good army composition.
Here we go. Those Coyotes going to run straight towards it, but that cannon, now they've got a nice surround. They're going to smash that. One cannon goes down, but I think all the Coyotes in that area are going to get nice cleaned up by the muskets there that are on hand combat, and of course cavalry archers do have multipliers against them as well. Second cannon does go down, but I think here Ace still comes out on top. But I'd like to have seen the cannons do a little bit more, but still, I think Ace got what he wanted out of that and is done well in this fight.
Yeah, it certainly has, and was able to save that second trading post as well. And behind this, now he's going to have the TP line. Soldier has taken back one of the TPs, but he's going to have the liberty to get back out of his base, going to be able to secure some of these resources to the right side of his base in the middle portion of the map. Yeah, he's got to be careful. But the important thing, right, is that Soldier is not aged up, and in fact is a very long ways away from being aged up as well. And now that these raids are going to start swinging back in his direction, going to start to make things a little bit awkward to deal with. So a very nice raid there for Ace, picking off tons of villagers, getting lots of economic unit kills, and this right side of his base is very, very scary. And all of a sudden now here comes the 6 Opportunity card, and it's gonna be even more dangerous for Soldier to continue to be out on the map.
Prishniks is so fun to watch, especially when they find a big mass of villages here. But being used in this location just to keep the Coyote runners in place, going to snare them. Of course, cavalry moves a lot quicker than Coyote, going to keep them there, and the cavalry archers can clean up this raid, so he's got nothing else to worry about. These gold mine villagers will be absolutely okay. Meanwhile, though, cavalry archers running through IamSoldier's base does find the villagers, by the looks of it, on this hunt here. Is he going to turn around, going to slow down to try and shoot one? Does go back a little bit, yes, but Mace Holton, I thought perhaps that's what he was worried about. Doesn't want to get too close, otherwise he's going to lose, one, perhaps even a second cavalry, 2 cavalry archers, 3 cavalry archers, just for going back in there, sadly for Aizamk, but I don't know if he knew about if they were nearby, but yeah.
Yeah, but this is still the point, right, where Pritchnik's out on the map killing villagers. He's starting to reestablish the whole TP line, and Soldier behind this still not able to age up, still stuck in the second age, and he needs the higher tech units. He needs to be able to get veterancy upgrades. He realistically needs Eagle Runner Knights to be able to deal with this composition of Pritchniks and cavalry archers and veteran muskets. He really needs to have some sort of Dragoon type unit. It doesn't have a strict Dragoon type unit, but Eagle Runner Knights, of course, very, very good in this situation. And he just doesn't have the opportunity to get those because he's currently locked in the second age. Is going to be able to pick up a couple more muskets here. Still has a decent massive infantry in general, but the longer this game goes with Russia being in the tech advantage, the more and more one-sided these fights are going to begin to become.
Yeah, we do have a bit of a fight here, though. The Cav trying to get away from the Pumas, and into the range of the Mace Holton. I'm not sure what to think of this.
Yeah, it's actually like a bit strange, right? Because it's basically pure Mace Holton against cavalry units that aren't actually that good of cavalry units, right? Because it's Opportunists, and Opportunists aren't exactly Mace Slayers, right? They're meant to be raid units, and as a result, they kind of just flop their wet noodles up against the Mace and don't actually really do that much against them.
The way you phrase that.
Well, look at
Wet
what
noodle
else?
fight.
What is that thing they have? It looks like a wet noodle, right?
It looks
Some
like a
sort of little
pickaxe in the image. Just
yeah.
some guy that's broken out of jail holding a pickaxe.
Yeah, he's got some sort of whip or something. I think
Yeah,
is what
it's a whip. Yeah.
but yeah,
there is that.
back in this engagement here.
These, however, are mace slayers.
Those are mace slayers. Cossacks, veterans, the upgraded Cossacks, very good at killing mace Holden, and A's demonstrating that. Has eliminated all the Puma Spearmen as well that were near him, and going to be able to clean this up. Has had a little bit of difficulty getting back these 2 trading posts up, but realistically in a very commanding position now. Soldier's starting to run out of resources on his half of the map. It's going to need to be able to get out into locations like this should he want to continue, or maybe even a location like this. And those 2 locations are going to be very, very difficult to contain, especially with these improved building blockhouses starting to sprout up in fairly aggressive locations. All the while, he has to be concerning himself with Prichnik raids and trying to deal with the upgraded Cossacks, the upgraded muskets, all those kinds of things. There's just a lot on Soldier's plate right here, and he just doesn't have the units to be able to deal with it at this point in the game.
Yeah. Both players have a tremendous number of villages on food. That is, quite a lot. But
Yeah.
what is each player trying to accomplish or trying to go about doing right now? Currently, the game has moved to this sort of passive state where it looks like AZ is now going to move forwards, and this is where the fighting really needs to take place for AZ, right? This is where Soldier has his hunts and is gathering resources. Lots of cavalry versus Puma. I'm not certain that this will be a good fight there. Yeah, Ace doesn't want to take that. He sees the FU in the chat and he knows it's time to.
It's the map control game, right? That's what it's come down to. If you take a look at this blockhouse, it very well clears out the blue player to be able to gather his resources very safely for the next
lots of line of
5 or 6 minutes. Over here, it gives him tons of line of sight. He has basically full knowledge of any time a raid's going to be coming in over there. And Soldier, similarly, is just kind of fighting to survive at this point. He's trying to secure himself enough resources on this left side of the map that he can just try and get enough army together that he can deal with this. Unfortunately,
because he just slammed these Cossacks in at this point,
I think so. I think it's just not going to matter at this point. There's too many Cossacks, too many upgraded Strellet. And this location that Soldier desperately needs to be able to control, basically his last remaining
look
hunt
at that.
on this
You
side
stole
of
a
the map.
farm.
Yeah, and that's right when you're building farms and the other guy still has oodles of pronghorn left alive like this, you're probably going to be in a pretty rough shape, and I think we're going to see that now. GG called. Soldier realizing that Ace is just going to be able to steamroll him from this point forward.
FF. Whoops.
And GG being called. Ace going up 2 games to 0.
That was an interesting one.
That was a fun build. I think it took advantage of kind of the meta game and the fact that Aztec players probably aren't playing very aggressively these days.
Yeah.
And trying to secure TP lines and play the raid game and map control a little bit more. And A's with his kind of funky ATP improved buildings play, kind of throwing off Soldier there and getting kind of a cheeky win.
It's over 9,000.
Yeah, I can't believe how many hit points that town center gets. Like, I didn't look at it in Age 3, but how many did it have in Age 3?
I didn't look
Probably
either.
even more. Probably like 11,000 or something ridiculous, right?
Yeah. That is funny.
What map are we feeling now? Something like Hudson or
Honshu.
or Honshu. Throw that in. Let's see. There is a UI. There was a UI 1.7 version of Honshu. I don't think there's explicitly a UI 2.6.
I thought for a second that it said Aizamk Honshu or something. Just Hudson Bay, not Honshu.
That would be great. The thing is, so Honshu is an interesting map, right? Because it's really long and skinny. I'm pretty sure the if the meta were to evolve on Honshu, I think what would end up being best would be playing very aggressively and then just shipping like a 2 Caravel shipment to try and shut down the map, right? I think that's what would end up being the best thing.
Mm.
Although Kinesi, I'm sure would do otherwise, and it would prove like he'd play Portuguese and he'd have 4 town centers on like each of the little maps and
well, each map, each little island specifically, it'd have 4 town centers.
Maybe
so like 16 town centers.
16 town centers
somehow. I can see Kinesi playing water on Honshu, but that's not a very interesting statement to make.
I'm still waiting for the Kinesi versus Bonang on only water maps.
Yes.
Well,
series.
When you have over 9,000 years, I mean, what I'm saying is that would take a long time to curse.
Yes.
But I'd be happy to do it. That sounds like a lot of fun.
Like even a best of 3, right? Because then you'd get like 2 guaranteed games.
True. Potentially 3 if you're lucky.
Yeah. But each game would be like an hour and a half, potentially, as well.
Yeah. But we are going to click in here to this next match. Aizamk and Soldier in this best of 7. The score. Well, the game is Age of Empires 3. Hudson Bay. The score is 2-0 in Aizamk's favor here. So we'll see how this one works out. Let's start with Aizamk. In the south of the map. No. In the left-hand side of the map. In the color blue, we do have playing
the south
civilization. The south left. He's moving up north right. I saw that like a clip from that the other day.
South left.
Top 10 Zuta moments when we first coined south left and north right. But what do you think of this, Zuta? Aizamk playing Japan. That'll be a fun one.
I actually love this matchup, Brit versus Japan.
Brit versus Japan. You're two civilizations that define themselves as the eco one. I've always found this one interesting because, there's always going to be sort of one civ that booms or is able to boom harder than the other, and then suddenly one is no longer established as the I'm going to sit here and boom civ. And obviously all matchups are more complex than that, but I do find this one in particular, and in my experience, British is the one that's able to create more resources. Is he going to get that up in time? No. But I can see why he was using both the Meh. He even says that he's pretty upset about that, but probably worth the risk, right? If you can get that extra block of XP.
I wasn't paying attention as to what he did early. Did he stop and like pick up any treasures or anything like that? Yeah. See, look, he stopped and picked up like the beaver treasure. He's got himself a 40 coin treasure, which could have potentially costed him that. In fact, if he wouldn't have stopped to pick up that treasure, right, he would have definitely gotten the XP pass.
Mm-hmm.
But there's other interesting things about this matchup as well, right? The hunt dynamic. If we think about how the civilizations interact with hunts, Brits need a lot of hunts, and they want to be able to basically spread out all over the map and gather all the hunts and be freely roaming about and stuff like that. Whereas Jap is the exact opposite, right? They want to sit in a little ball in their base and spread out their shrines all over the hunts. And so there's an interesting interaction there where the Brit player is chowing through hunts and needs to be able to continue to clear them out so he's got more food so that he can continue to improve his economy. Whereas Japan at some point needs to be able to defend the hunts because Brit players, faster than any other civ in the game, chew their way through hunts very, very quickly. And should all the hunts disappear from the map, then their shrines all of a sudden become that much less effective, right? And that's true with any civilization. For Japan, they need to try and maintain the hunts as best as they possibly can on the map to be able to realistically get the advantage from the shrines working to their full extent.
All right, well, and Mountain Warriors just come in.
All right, so Ace is going to do something interesting.
100 can't argue with 180 food. That's a big,
that's a
big
nice
treasure.
He's playing like his Yukon deck then, by the looks of it, because this is a build that he does on Yukon.
I don't recall there being a 180 food treasure. That tells me about your build. Wow, 100
this is
wood.
So insane.
Yeah, that is such a good. Yeah, look at that.
Plus, Mountain Warrior doesn't just double the effects of treasures as well, right? It makes your monks very, very strong. So this treasure becomes much more trivial to take with the 2 monks as well. So not only does he get 200 wood for it, but he preserves a lot more HP on his monks as a result of it.
We have a treasure contention. He hasn't gone for it yet, but he's postured next to it, right? Yeah, he's not going to want to fight this, you know. With 2 buffed up Japanese monks, you're going to have to get out of there. Confirmed. Yeah. Go away, he says. But yeah, he's worked out now that it's definitely there isn't a 180 food treasure that he's never heard of in the game before, and it is actually that Mountain Warrior has been sent there. Gonna go straight for it. That's I don't know how cheeky that is, because Red Explorer was only just nearby. 2 villagers coming forward, so he's gonna see it, I think. But or maybe not. Maybe he just walks straight. Maybe he won't notice it. Like, it might have been in his line of sight, he might not have noticed it. But the point is, Aizamk bringing 2 villagers forward, and this only tells us one thing, that with, you know, combined with that 300 wood shipment that's just arrived, he is intending to go full aggro with this civilization.
Mode, I think we'll see a consulate coming down with this. Are we going to see a consulate or another TP?
That 300 wood shipment plus 200 is 500 wood before he's even age 2.
Consulate? Yeah, there comes the consulate.
So Club Rush incoming.
Yep. It's going to be pretty slow, though. Normally when you think about consulate rushes, you like to have the consulate finished before the wonder is, so that the second you get aged up, you can immediately queue up clubs. And we can see he's aged up now at a fairly effective time, 4 minutes and 40 seconds, and the consulate only half finished. So not going to be able to immediately throw out clubs, but it does have the ability to throw down the barracks at basically the same time, and is going to have some pretty good aggression. We'll see how aggro he gets here, and oh man, this game is going to be very strange, very quick, isn't it?
Yeah, we've got a forward racks with a forward outpost there. Let's switch on over to units in queue. I quite like that graph at this point in the game. We do see, well, nothing just yet, but the consulate has only just gone down. And there's a Rax coming down as well. 5 Ashigaru Musketeers. A's going full aggro here. These are going to come out and... you know, they're not going to be able to deny any buildings here, but... yeah, he might be able to kill the scout. Yeah,
I'm wondering what he's going to do with his export. Did he send the wagon first? Because he should have had more export than that, right? I believe.
Sorry, my headset just sort of unplugged itself, and I had to plug it back in.
I'm trying to figure out what I'm missing here, because he should have more export. Okay, there he's spent his export. There are the clubs in queue. I was wondering where when he was going to and how he was going to spend that export. For a moment, I thought maybe he was going to use it to buy Bushido tactics or something like that. But I don't know that would necessarily be the best thing in the world to do. Yeah. But either way, here do come out those clubs. He's going to be able to finish off killing this outpost, and all of a sudden, Soldier's Rax here in a very, very precarious position, not realizing he's up against non-standard Japan play.
Yeah, what was he thinking with the Rax so far forward? I mean, he's like, yeah, I'm going to build my Rax, I'm going to get some pikemen out, I'm going to run around killing all the shrines. Oh, wait, now these aren't that good against... But, yeah, crossbowmen do come out as... Not crossbows, longbowmen do come out. But sadly, fairly in range of the fast-moving Ashigaru. So clubmen going to come in here and clean them up real quick. And the pikemen that you trained earlier, not able to do so much. They were pushed back earlier by some muskets. Yumi archers have found them there and are going to force them back. I don't think these 3 pikes are really going to get much done. And as you mentioned earlier, very precariously, 2 longbowmen do come out. They're just going to get executed on the spot there. And then this Rax is, as you mentioned, precariously placed, going to go down. More longbowmen do join, plus the Minutemen. I guess that's his last-ditch effort to really try and save this. I suppose he was trying to hope to combine all of these units here with the 2 longbowmen that were coming out, perhaps more if he could try and get them in there. But I think this is going to spell doom. This is not going to work. This Rax is going to go down, these Minutemen aren't going to be hugely effective, and there's not really enough longbow hitmen here to carry him, right?
Yeah, and I think Soldier made a mistake here by calling his Minutemen. I think, truthfully, what he needed to do was realize 2 things. One, my opponent is playing very low economy. There aren't very many shrines that I'm going to have to siege, and if I just go back to my base, play very economically myself, and just mass longbows from my hunts here, he's not in a position... I mean, you can be guaranteed when he ages that quickly with both a trading post and a forward consulate, something has to give, right? Something has to have been cut, and in this case, it's obviously the shrines, right? He doesn't have any shrines. If you take a look at Aze's shrine population, he's at 60. Economically, he's basically on nuts. He's got no economy whatsoever. This was an all-in counter build by Aze, and I think Soldier just reacted to it poorly. Had he just done what he's done now, just built a second Rax in his base, eaten his resources in base, just played economically, and gotten up a huge, massive longbows, and waited for the weakened Japanese economy to come into him, he probably would have been able to stall it out into a longer game and gotten to a position where he could potentially deal with this massive units. But now this is going to be very difficult. He doesn't have his Minutemen available to him because he called them trying to save his forward location. He's got some longbows, but not nearly enough. There's plenty of Ashies, Yumis, and clubs here to soak up their damage. And this is probably going to get out of hand here pretty quick. This is going to be a very tough situation.
I noticed Aizamk put some of his clubmen in hand combat there when they're fighting these longbowmen that are sort of firing in the back here, and that did sort of take them out for the time being, whilst they had to tank down the clubmen, which were tanking a lot more HP, leaving the rest of the units to do more damage. So A's doing a good job making the most of his units here. But there's just not enough longbowmen, right? These are adding good damage in, and they are pesky because of the range they have. Did manage to get these ones. I believe they've just walked back from. They're now going to try and get back in the fight, trying to keep them alive. It does manage to push him out for the time being, though.
Yeah, and Japan has to be kind of careful here, right? Because he spent a lot of shipments on this aggressive play. 5 Ashi, 5 Yumi, 300 export are all very, very military-focused cards. And truthfully, looking at the economic unit population, I mean, it's still 34-30. The British player, despite the fact that he's actually lost a couple of villagers, is being run around by the speed of the Ashies and stuff like that, is still actually economically ahead. Now, that may not be true for very long, and if you look at the raw resources gathered, Soldier is probably significantly behind because he spent a lot of time running his villagers around, not gathering, in the town center, stuff like that. But at the same time, if you give those villagers a little bit of time to stabilize and gather resources, Brits probably still actually in an okay spot. And we can see muskets coming out, some of the longbows still left alive. And, well, Aze needs to be careful that he doesn't get a little too carried away here. He does have a stable coming up somewhere, I saw. Where's that stable? There it is. And going to start transitioning into some Nagis, which are definitely going to help him out against this massive...
Daimyo Mototada does come in. So you mentioned British just needs a bit of extra time. These villages will come and save him, generate some resources, help him get the units out. But you say that, but actually Japan is on very even villager population, and he's got more upgrades than his opponent as well. I think the saving grace is that he is gathering from cherry orchards, which are I guess slower than ordinary hunts. So British does that have going for him, and the fact that he can make more villages more quickly from building more manors and things like that. But for the time being, I still think economically speaking, it's actually fairly even here.
Yeah, Soldiers lost a ton of villagers though to raiding.
Upgrade coming in just at the right moment, and Daimyo Mototada going to get involved in this fight as well. Yumi archers doing very, very good damage against the muskets, and with the upgrade that the Daimyo presents, plus the Daimyo just adding in damage as a unit as well. I think here this fight is fairly even.
Soldier's okay, yeah, Soldier's okay, and this is good for Brit. I mean, when all is said and done, the military units are much stronger for the Japanese player. So if he can even up the military counts here continually, despite fighting against the upgrades from the daimyo and stuff like that, I think that's something he's going to be okay with. Muskets coming forward here, Yumi also here to help pick off some of the remaining muskets, some of the stragglers, but very soon Soldier's going to be getting into this position that he's starting to work his way towards now, where he's going to have to be able to gather from these forward hunts, and that's going to be the next big hurdle for him. He's stabilized back in his base, sure, but now he actually has to start making some sort of conscious effort to get out on the map, which is going to be the next difficult thing.
Yeah, and blue now on top of him again. Force. Look at that village. The military unit count is all the way down to these 5 remaining muskets, and these cav are on top of them right now. Gonna slow them down. Let the Yumis and the Ashies get into. No Minutemen left. Remember, I think all the villagers. They're still out on the map gathering, so that's good for him for the time being. But now with all these military units down, depends what Aze does next. Is he gonna GG being called from Soldier there? Yeah, I was gonna say if Hayes were to stay in the base here and siege down the Raxes and stuff, those villagers might still be able to create enough units like to batch a 10 longbowmen or something like that. But
yeah, I think a critical mistake was made by Soldier when he tried to defend this forward Rax. If you take a look at the situation that unfolded, he ended up losing the forward Rax anyways, right? And he invested so many resources. I mean, you mentioned several times, 2 or 3 longbows popping out from a Rax, immediately getting executed, getting killed, right? Had he just saved those resources, massed them back in his base instead, and then just absorbed the push when it came with a bunch of longbows standing in a defensive position with town center fire, Minutemen coming, stuff like that, he probably would have held just fine and then gotten back out of the map. He still almost stabilized when all was said and done, and I think that's just a testament to how all in the Japanese eco was at that point. The Japanese player having a very difficult time recovering, and had Soldier just played back a little bit more, I think he would have been perfectly fine. And maybe just got caught out a little bit in that situation, wasn't quite sure what to do, and that's one of the advantages of A's, right? He brings different, strange looks to you, and if you don't make the right decision in that very short instant of time you have to work with and make the correct decision, he's very good at punishing you for it, and we saw that here. Soldier overstayed his welcome out in the middle of the map, and A's punished him for it.
Yep. Managed to get him with the unexpected, I think you mentioned all-in counter build.
And that is a build, by the way, that I have been tending to like to do myself against a lot of European civs. I actually think that style of build that Ace just did is very good against Germany. It still struggles against French, but I think against especially civilizations that like to have a little bit of time and traditionally do fairly well against the standard Japanese play, because Japan by default does kind of give you time if you play the standard meta builds with Japan. If you play very aggressively with them and lock it into a long Age 2 game, eventually Japan, just by the nature of building shrines and getting eco and having strong, very durable units, it eventually just kind of stabilizes and gets ahead and ends up in a pretty good situation and just kind of grinds out a lot of civs in the second age. So we saw a very similar thing happen here, right? Soldier just reacted to it incorrectly, and as a result got ground into the ground.
Yep.
Next map. What's something that we don't play very often that's kind
normal Sagwine?
I don't know if there's a 2.06 version of normal Sag.
No, right.
In fact, I'm almost sure there's not. What's that? Is there a Silk Road 2.06? That's an interesting map that doesn't see enough play. Silk Road.
No.
I actually think Silk Road is maybe what Trading Post should have been, because they reward fighting for map control.
Yeah, that's a good point. Maybe we should see more maps with Silk Road style trading posts on them.
Yeah.
There's no reason not to make more maps with that kind of trading post.
Let's do
I can get behind and then you could cut the cost of a trading post in half again, and I could get behind 100 wood native village trading posts.
Trading posts. Yeah, that would be fine actually. Or maybe 125, 150, something. It's something that you'd have to play around with, right? Because
you could only do it on new maps. You couldn't just change the whole game. That would be silly.
Because there are some situations where you can have Inca Huminkans just charging down your TC in full force. that might get to be a little bit scary.
What? There's nothing wrong with humanicas or whatever they're called.
Huminkins. I always call them huminkins. I don't know if that's correct.
I can't eat any more of this pizza.
Are you just sitting over there just stuffing your face, hating life?
They put too much barbecue sauce on it, and it's far too sweet as a result of that.
Oh, you got with like the barbecue sauce?
Well, I like this one called the Meteor, and it's covered in meatballs and sausage and bacon and all sorts of meat.
You just love that big meat, don't you?
I love meat. Yeah, big meat. Absolutely. But, yeah, they put barbecue sauce on it instead of, like, tomato or whatever it is they normally do, and it's just really sickly pizza. You know, I might have it for dessert tomorrow after dinner. That's how sweet it is. But, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to game number 4 in this best of 7 series between Aizamk and Soldier. Could be match point if Aizamk can take this victory here, and we will see if he is able to do that here, playing as the French versus his opponent also playing the French. We do have a French mirror coming in here, and this is another mirror that I actually really quite like watching. This is a good one, I think. This has that Fortress Age dynamic, but there's absolutely room to play in the colonial age, and really that is what the players will be doing, I would imagine. It's very difficult to sneak up to the Fortress Age sometimes, but if you can edge out that sort of victory, then that can, if you can edge up, you know, slightly, you can get that big advantage out. And the question is, will he be able to do that? And I think this is a really interesting dynamic where you play on this razor fine edge blade of sort of balance in a way.
Yeah. Especially on a map like this, right, where it's pretty close rush conditions, not a ton of resources, and just kind of an overall fairly aggressive map to begin with. Definitely room for that aggressive style of play as well. So we'll have to see whether or not that actually ends up.
This is an interesting trading post position from A's, the middle one as opposed to the one in his base.
Yeah, and that could potentially mean he's going to be playing aggressively, right? Because if you think about these trading post socket positions, and I've said it before, right? If I take off the fog, there's 3 of them you can see in total, and taking this one, if you're A's, is much safer. It's in a much more defendable location. It's kind of tucked back in the corner, and if you're just going to play a tech-based play, it's going to be much easier to defend and also much more difficult for your opponent to effectively harass. But by putting out this TP in the middle of the map, essentially saying, like, here's my trading post, come and get it. Sure, it does give you a quicker passive XP. As we can see, the trading post is working its way from the north to the south. It does give you that slightly quicker passive XP, but it becomes a bit of a liability if you're unable to defend it. So it could maybe be tipping his hand that he's going to be playing aggressively in H2. Maybe he'll do, you know, some sort of 13 village up and some aggressive camp play, something like that. Hard to tell, but traditionally, if I were playing the French civilization and I had a fortress agenda in mind, I would almost always take one of the 2 corner TPs just because of the defensive nature of it. So we'll see whether or not A's is just being A's and doing what he pleases, taking the middle TP, or if he's actually got some sort of formulated response as a result of this.
Yeah, we will see. Soldier picking up a 30 XP treasure here, and so far Soldier has not had amazing luck in the Discovery Age, and I'm tempted to not even call it luck anymore after having done so many H2O explains. There's definitely ways to play Age 1 to eke out those advantages here, but Soldier only picking up the 55 coin and a 30 XP. If we consider, we do see he has managed to, well, he's only got 3 cows as well. A's also going to be picking himself up 85 wood, and has, oh wait, that's Soldier.
Soldier, yeah.
It'll be Soldier. So this is the equalizer then, isn't it? This is a very good treasure for him to find.
Yep. I mean, had A's picked this up, he would be dominating in Age 1. Like you mentioned, already 6-3 cow advantage. I believe all 10 yaks have been scouted out. One of them has been deleted.
But he's managed to capture this Explorer there. He saw that perhaps that treasure was being gone for, saw it get picked up. The Explorer does come in with the Native Scout as well, and both of them targeting this red Explorer. That you can see A's kiting forward and then shooting in the direction that he expects that Soldier will go with his Scout, which is towards his own town centre. But here, Yeah, I think he's gonna. Is he gonna get that scout out? That'd be the saving grace. He does snare it there. I think Blue gonna lose his scout. But equally though, I think Soldier gonna lose his hero, which is possibly gonna get that out. Gonna snare him there. Nicely done. Nicely done.
It's very well done, honestly, by Soldier. Able to, despite being lower in HP, kill both the native scout and get out with his explorer alive. Definitely a big advantage for the red player here, moving into the transition period.
He just slammed that. He didn't even care. Like, he just slammed that down. There was a red guy nearby. He didn't care. I'm going to build a trading post. What of it?
I did notice that a 13 CDB age up was in the cards for A's. You can see he's going to be aging right now at 4 minutes and 10 seconds. And he's got himself a Shaolin Temple coming down, which means he's going to be making rat and shields, almost certainly.
Love me some rat and shields.
We'll see what ends up happening as a result of that. We did suspect, due to the nature of his early aggressive trading post, that there could be some potentially aggressive play. Look at this. Soldier, like, he's identified it. He's
oh, jeez. Let's go home.
Yeah. Well, boys, time to pack up and go home.
Back home. We'll build the base back home.
Yeah.
All right, well.
Realizing, of course, his Soldier, that there's not going to be any semblance of standard play here. 3 Hussar have come out. We can see the rat and shields working their way across the map as well.
They are such good units, especially when you get that upgrade. I think they're like almost single-handedly the best natives in the game once that upgrade comes through for them. Really, really strong. Basically, Coyote runners. Look how fast they move as well.
They are a pretty good unit. I mean, take a look at their stats. 15 hand attack, 185 hit points. For a unit that only costs 50 food and 60 wood, that's pretty dang good. But it's essentially Hussar-like stats, with half the pop and half the cost, essentially. Yeah. But at the same time, Soldier does have his stable down as well, is going to be popping in and out with some CDBs, trying to get some damage done. 2 half-built houses caught out here, and Soldier in a little bit of an awkward position all of a sudden. Doesn't have a ton of resources right underneath his base, and as a result, not going to be able to get
kept, as well as a result of those houses. Can't train any cavalry from that stable that he has. Nothing in queue there. The only way he can defend this really is by popping the villagers in and out, using the town center fire and the villager fire there. And we do see 3 Hussars arrive, and I'm sure Minutemen will be called here as well. If he has the resources. Does he have the resources for that?
He needs to trade.
He did manage to get that. Perhaps at the market sold some of the wood for it, which is definitely a win for A's if that is the case. Minutemen do come out and join this then, but so far these villagers have been delayed for a very long time. Managed to get a good kill on those houses and just slowed him down, just generally speaking. And all of these things added up are going to be really, really good for A. What is this? We do see team improved native warriors join the. We now have 17 hand attack and 212 HP on these units.
It's actually ridiculous, like how good. Like it's a 15%. It's basically like the combat cards in effectiveness, right? Yeah. Like the standard like age 3 combat cards. It's like on par with that in term, but it upgrades natives in age 2, and it's a team card.
Yeah,
I mean, sure, it's a 1v1, but
Soldier gonna play it secure. He's gonna play it safe. Sorry, not safe. It's gonna play it with the villagers there. He's not gonna panic. He's not gonna randomly overcommit and send too many unit shipments. And even if he did send the unit shipments, right, there would be 8 crossbowmen, which are definitely not very effective against against rat and shields, which are effectively cab. The crossbows would get absolutely destroyed by them here. But the fact that I think Soldier here would be in a much better position had he started with a Rax, right? But that's not what he was intending to do. He wanted to play sort of semi-FF style agenda by the looks of it, and
he's struggling as a result. He's got to be able to get out of his base and get down the Rax. I'm glad you brought that up because he needs a barracks here so badly. But so much of his time has just been spent fighting his villagers, microing them in and out of the town center. Hasn't been able to get out of his base. He's got this one single Hussar that he's been able to train from his town center. And I would also like to bring up the fact that once he does finally get back out of his base, finally the barracks looks like it's going to get down. Once he finally does get into this situation where he gets to gather some resources, his next hunts are very spread out. Truth be told, I mean, he's got to try and get these herded back in.
What does Dimmac do?
Dimmac?
Yeah, from the researchers. He's just got his steel traps in, but Dimmac has been researched at the... I guess we can hold Alt on this thing, can't we? Dimmac does... Rat and Shield changes all action damages by 50%. Yeah, that's the upgrade I was talking about.
It's a 50% upgrade. What's the cost of that thing?
300 of each resource. Not food, sorry. It's 300 of golden wood.
Look at their hand attack.
Yeah, this is why I mentioned that they're the strongest they're the strongest natives. When you get that upgrade, they're just crazy.
24. I mean, comparatively, Asar has 30, right? And they're a 2-pop unit that would double the cost.
Yeah, these are significantly cheaper in every way imaginable. I guess the only thing bad about that is that they cost wood, which is a fairly slow gathering resource, so their cost is deceptively lower, but still lower than it would be. And look how much of a problem he's been causing. These villagers have been doing nothing but randomly trying to shoot. They haven't been gathering. The 700 coin is being delayed. The 700 wood was delayed. The barracks going down was delayed. The houses being killed was delayed. Just everything Soldier is trying to do has just been slowed down, and he's not going to be gathering resources or carrying out the agenda that he has in mind nearly as effectively or as quickly. And as a result of that, look at the score gap. He's managed to pull himself out an extra 30. Native trees does hit the board as well. I'm not even sure what it does.
And it allows you to build more natives.
You get a shipment of natives warriors from each different allied tribe.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so he's got some Rat and Shield. So he's probably overpopped on Rat and Shield now, and he's going to get a shipment of the Zen guys. When that goes up, they will appear at his town center or whatever his home city spawn point is as soon as this Zen temple goes up.
What units can you make from the Zen temple? Oh, the Sohai. Okay.
Yeah, Sohai. Anything useful there. Hand infantry changes all action damages by 10%, and meditation cannot be bad, right? 1,000 XP. There's you can't argue with that. 350 wood, 350 gold, and there's up here minus 20 unit upgrade, change coin wood and wood cost by minus 20%. I can't see that being useful until super late game, but an interesting shipment here. But let's take a look at his base rates, fully contained just by Rat and Shield, just running around terrorizing his villages, and he's not been able to gather any food, and as a result of that, we don't see any muskets or pikemen or units. That's 700 food on the floor. He just wants to gather that up, and I'm sure we're going to see some sort of counter unit coming into queue at the barracks there, most likely muskets or a pikeman.
Yeah, and check out the economic unit population as a result of this as well. That's the biggest discrepancy between these players as a result of this pressure. Soldier just has not been able to train economic units. He hasn't been able to train villagers as a result of all this pressure. He's been popped for a large portion of this game.
Those Zoe have fucking crazy siege damage. What is that?
Yeah, they're basically like Pumas, right?
Yeah, oh my god, yeah, they are. How much do these guys cost? I always considered these guys to be like really cheap little guys that you get, like little stickmen, because of the big shipment of them you get when playing as Japan. But when you train them individually, they're not actually that cheap. I can see why.
55-40,
They're monstrous. Like, these houses are being torn down, and I'm not certain, but it looks like those Rat and Shield have like a ×2 attack speed versus building compared to normal units. I don't know if that's just an animation being sped up, but it looks like they're fighting twice as fast.
Yeah. The other thing you have to remember about the Sohai is they look deceptive because there is already these upgrades for them as well, right? There's already team improved native warriors, which
that's true.
Was sent at 6 minutes and 20 seconds, so it is a little bit more deceptive as how good they are, but still a pretty solid unit.
Yep.
I still can't get over the Rat and Shield HP and like general stats though, right? Like 250 hit points and 26 hand attack, like just disgusting.
Yeah, that is a very, very strong unit here. And these 3 cavs being terrorized as well. All this time, Aizamk does have good upgrades and 2 trading posts in the back of this. And just Soldier is just fully contained in every way imaginable. I think it doesn't even matter now that he's got these muskets out. And his units are going to be much better against what is effectively cavalry and pikemen. Muskets do very good against both of those. But just look at the villager population. Aiz has done what he needs to do to win this game already.
Yeah. Maybe this is like the moment of truth. If Soldier can't get out here, he's just shipped a crossbow. He's so far behind already economically, and yeah, I think these Rat and Shields, like these 2 Rat and Shields, are going to clean up the 8 crossbowmen by themselves. The rest of their musket comrades falling down as well. This last remaining Hussar being chased out, and I think this spells defeat for Soldier. I don't know where he goes from here forward. There's just too much stuff.
That was, well, I'm talking as if it's over, and I feel like it almost is. But that was a really interesting game, even though it was fairly one-sided, I think.
Yeah.
But Aizamk, I think, well, we don't know yet, but coming in with the 4-0 sweep, and this is a big change from the last time these two guys played. Well, I was talking about that spring championships at the very start there. I won't spoil the outcome, but it was a much closer series. And Aizamk here decisively showing, you know, he's been playing a lot recently. He's been probably practicing, I don't know necessarily stuff like this, but certainly been playing his stream, and which is twitch.tv/Aze11. Hold on a moment there. He's still in it. No.
It's deceptive because he's got a ton of villagers.
Yeah, they just fight. It's just like as if some units have appeared out of nowhere, but they're just villagers, aren't they? They're not gathering right now. That is the GG there. A fairly quick 14-minute game. A fairly interesting one though. Never do you see that.
You never see natives, and I didn't realize how. Like, I mean, I know how good Rat and Shields are. There's this player that named Mort that when we used to play like 3v3s on Mongolia, he used to always go natives because Rat and Shields also appear on Mongolia as well, right? That's like the ES standard map that they spawn on, and he used to love to make natives on that map. And they were really strong then. And obviously, like, this native rush just insanely strong with how good those Ratans are. And the fact that, you know, natives don't suck up population cap allows him to do things like send 3 Hussars his first card. And then when you combine, you know, 10 of those Ratans with 3 Hussar with a very early 13 pop age up, it's a very scary thing to be facing. Pretty scary stuff.
Yeah, I think that's the story right there. Soldier saying, I managed to pick the wrong decisions each game. And I think that's true. In a lot of these games, he played in such a way that would be good or meta, you know, so good in the meta. But Aizamk really smashing that. Like, that Japan game was a good example, right? Aze's build, even though it's perhaps not as good as ordinary Japan, is very strong, as you mentioned, against what... you know, against Germany. You think it'd be very good against Germany, and certainly what Soldier was doing, even though he wasn't playing that civilization. And here, the stable, starting with a stable, if he'd started with a Rax, if he had done that and gotten muskets out, gone for like a 10 musket semi or something like that, or played the sort of colonial-aged sort of agenda I mentioned at the very beginning, you know, certainly this would have been a lot easier to deal with. But no, Ace said it in the chat there, Cav do not work against this, and Rat and Shield proving their merit today. I think one of my favorite units in the game, actually. Yep,
definitely a strong unit, and definitely a fun game to end this best of 7 on.
Well, that is that one though. That was an interesting series. There was some very funny stuff, or very funky stuff, I should say.
Yep.
But I think that's it from me with Zuta today. Zuta though, what have you got planned for the rest of the stream?
I'm gonna do a replay today.
All right.
I've actually been getting quite a few good replays being sent my way recently, so
I think you should have a policy of I saw that you mentioned in one of them that you'd prefer it if the players sent you games where they lost in. I think that you should make that policy, because it's kind of silly to tell a guy who won his game how he can improve.
Well, that's the thing, right? It becomes very hard when you beat someone. Usually
you know what went right. Like,
right, you know what went right, and you abuse something that they did incorrectly as well, right? So,
yeah. Well, I'm going to end the recording here. Thank you very much for watching, everybody. We'll be back next week. Saturday Smackdown. That was a pretty good one. Tell Aze and Soldier what you thought, and if you'd like to play, do let Zuta know, as you mentioned at the very beginning. We'll see you next time.